Why aren't your church members sharing their faith? Here's a few reasons. One, they may think of evangelism as approaching strangers. Now, can evangelism involve approaching strangers? Sure, of course. But the problem is, for a lot of people, they think evangelism equals approaching strangers. And so, if that's their only understanding of evangelism, they opt out. So sometimes what we need is a definitional response, helping people see that it's bigger than just this one approach or this one style of evangelistic outreach. Another thing that happens to people is they think they need to make a single presentation, and they need to close the deal on that presentation. And so we have to get people past seeing it that way. It's just a singular presentation. I got to close the deal. What ends up happening is if people feel like they can't close the deal in that one presentation, then a lot of times they end up doing nothing. And then there's also people that feel like they have to make a presentation that feels like a sales pitch. And frankly, most people just simply aren't salesmen. These three barriers for evangelism can really be addressed, and they become less weighty if we can help people to pivot from the mindset of making a single presentation, especially when that presentation means closing the deal, to instead having conversations, helping people see that we're entering a dialogue, we're building evangelistic friendships. And in many cases, it's going to be a series of conversations. We build this relationship where we're openly sharing faith and talking about God in the context of an ongoing dialogue and relationship. Another reason why people may avoid sharing their faith is they may feel like the rejection of the message about Jesus is their fault, and they rather avoid that feeling. One of the ways to address this when people feel this way is to help them understand that the message depends on finding a receptive hearer. It very much depends on the soil. Now, that doesn't mean that we should just be careless about it, and how we go about it. Let's try to do our best as we share the message and represent Jesus in our interactions and sharing our faith. But at the same time, it's not our fault if we share the message as clearly and as authentically and genuinely as we possibly can, and they still don't receive it because the reality is it has to find receptive soil. And sometimes the message is working, but it's not always obvious right away. We've heard so many stories of that exact thing happening. And so that's also an important thing to remember. And then finally, another reason why people in your church may not be sharing their faith is sometimes people might just lack the conviction. This is obviously more challenging because we're not just trying to free them from guilt or help them reframe and have a different definition of evangelism than maybe some of the baggage they brought in. But when this is the case, using guilt or similar tactics, let's be clear, that's just not going to help in the long run. Even if it seems to be a short-term solution, it'll probably fizzle out very quickly and it'll be hard to get them back going again once that happens. Instead, we need to demonstrate the beauty of Jesus' story. We need to help the church fall in love with him again, how amazing his story is and how impactful it can be when other people encounter Jesus and learn his story and begin to live by it. Now, here's another warning that goes with that, though, too. It's not a linear process. Uh, what a lot of pastors want to do is just focus on one thing at a time. But it's not just hearing the story and then someday now we're going to share it. We want to, we want to tell the story. We want to help the church really, become fascinated with Jesus all over again and want to see the story be shared with others. And so we're working on helping people reconnect with Jesus, but that doesn't mean we're waiting and reaching out. Whoever is ready in our church, let's go. Whatever programs are happening in our church, let's keep them going. Whatever opportunities we have to continue reaching out, let's keep doing that. When we just want to wait and let's teach, and then someday they'll be ready, that contributes to a passive response. And so this is not a linear process. Instead, our church needs to reach out while explaining the why all along the way. And hopefully, as that happens, more and more individuals, get on board this train and really get excited about sharing the hope of Jesus with others as we go. If you found that video helpful, if it's an encouragement in your own discipleship as you follow Jesus, please like and subscribe so we can get more of it to you. Thanks so much.